And good evening. Good evening. It's a beautiful morning where I'm at right now. Welcome everybody. So the topic here we'll be talking about what indeed was the first day. Now, I'm not going to be selective with my commentaries. Some will favor 24-hour. Some might favor the young Earth view. Some might even favor the old Earth view. Let's just take it for what it is and let's see what we got. So, let me open the outline that I prepared. Just there's plenty more biblical commentary for this one, but after we deal with the parallels, we will make our way also to what the church fathers have to say about it. I mean, they're the OGs of the theology, so why shouldn't we look into what they said, right? So here we are. Sorry, I took some time. I was having a encounter in Clubhouse and um in the super secret cult Discord. I'm just gonna tell you what really went down. So I'm not gonna mention names, but I'll tell you. I'm just gonna tell you what exactly happened. What happened there? So here we have what was the first day. Did I get this right? Let's see. What was the first day? Let me take a look because I might be in the wrong studio. I just got to make sure here, folks. I am I am so disorganized right now. I do not know why. Yep. I got it. All right, sure. All right. So let's begin. So Genesis 1 verse 5, and it says here, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. Berean Study Bible. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening and there was morning, the first day. Hmm. I like how he just transitions from morning and to first day. It's like this was the beginning of the first, I mean, the light, that sort of light was the first day. This was the first, this was the first, this was like the emergence of light. That emerging light was indeed the first day because everything was dark first. It was all in darkness. Then, then day, the light was shed into the darkness. This was the first day. That light was the first day. Okay, hold on. I closed it. Sorry. Amplified Bible. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening and there was morning. One day. So this is more of a kind of favors a sort of a young Earth dialectic. What about this one? Young's. It's kind of no Young's is like KJV, but it's just rendered differently. So and God called us to the light day, And to the darkness he hath called night. And there is an evening, and there is a morning, day one. The beginning of a natural 24-hour day. What about the Septuagint? And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning. And there was evening, and there was morning, comma, the first day. That light was that first day. Before the luminaries, that was the first day. Before the luminaries of the fourth day, that light, which was called morning, the first day, that first day was that light. So cross references. Numbers 20, verse 29. When the whole congregation saw that Aaron had died, the entire house of Israel mourned for him 30 days. Psalm 65, verse 8. Those who live far away fear your wonders. You make the dawn and sunset shout for joy. Psalm 74, verse 16. The day is yours and also the night. You establish the moon and the sun. Treasury of Scripture. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. So day end. While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. Hmm. Psalm 19, verse 2. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night sheweth knowledge. Psalm 74, 16. The day is thine, the night is also thine. Thou hast prepared the light and the sun, and the evening and the morning were. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. There it is. And the evening and the morning were the second day. Do you see the transition here when you get to verse 8? Now let's get to the meat of the commentary. So, Ellicott so far has been my favorite. So, God called the light day. Context: before this distinction of night and day was possible, there must have been outside there must have been outside the earth, not as yet the sun, but a bright phosphorescent mass, such as now enwraps the luminary rather. And secondly, the earth must have begun to revolve upon its axis. Consequent upon this would be not merely alternate periods of light and darkness, but also of heat and cold, from which would result important effects upon the formation of the earth's crust. Moreover, in thus giving day and night names, God ordained language, and that vocal sounds should be the symbols of things. This law already looks forward to the existence of man, that the one being on earth who calls things by their names. So if we go back here and then we consider this, God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. And let's see if Mr. Ellicott here isn't playing with the language here. Let's take a look. Because I want to make sure that maybe he's probably just alluding to something. Right? And God called the firmament heaven, so the evening and the okay, so it is, all right. So, and God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. Hold on, I thought that was the first day. So, do you see the transition of the language? And whereas you get to when you get to verse 5, it's like, and when you get to verse 5, it goes like this: God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. And then you get over here a second, and the evening and the morning were the second day. Now the King James and the well, the King James says the same thing. That was in the TOS. But what about the Septuagint? Ooh, oh geez. So, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. Now, watch this one. And there was evening, and there was morning, comma, the first day. See that? The first day. What about the BSB? And there was the morning, double hyphen, that's not a double hyphen, sorry. And there was morning, hyphen, the first day, right? And the morning, and the evening, and the morning were the first day. So Ellicott draws this language, draws from this, draws from that, this commentary that before the distinction of night and day, so that was the distinct, so those were, so hang on, before this distinction of night and day was possible, before the distinction, this distinction of night and day was possible. Hang on. So let's go back to that one. God said, "Let there be light," and God called the light day, and the darkness called night. So before there had to be a distinction, God had to give them names. There must have been outside the earth, not as yet the sun, because the sun appears in the fourth day, but a bright phosphorescent mass. See that? But a bright phosphorescent mass. Before you had the luminary, before you had the secondary luminaries, no, not secondary, before you had the luminaries, by the fourth day, you had something that exists outside the earth, a bright phosphorescent mass. This was the light source that God established, such as now enwraps that luminary. And secondly, the earth must have begun to revolve upon its axis. So, so when the first day came, it shed light on the voidness and formlessness of the earth. And secondly, the earth must have begun to revolve upon its axis. Consequent upon this would be not merely alternate periods of light and darkness, but also of heat and cold, from which would result important effects upon the formation of the Earth's crust. See that? So, when the first day came, the 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 voidness of the earth was seen, and on the second day, God began to work on that one. He divided the waters from the waters. And here you have heat and cold, from which would result important effects upon the formation of the Earth's crust. Moreover, in thus giving day and night names, God ordained language, that vocal sound should be the symbol of things. This law already looks forward to the existence of man, that one, the one being on earth who calls things by their names. And the evening and the morning, literally, and was an evening and was a morning, day one, the definite article not being used till Genesis 1:31. What does it say? Genesis 1:31. I have my Bible with me. So it says, "And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. And the seventh day he rested," which means this was when God uh, stopped creating, because now he was satisfied with what he has made, what he has established. I am. I came to that one because I was reading this before I streamed it. I had to study this a bit. Yeah, I think we'll come across that. So when we have day the sixth, which was also the last of the creative days, the word evening means a mixture. It is no longer the opaque darkness of a world without light, but the intermingling of light and darkness. That's correct, because you already had the first day, which is that light. And God called the darkness, that darkness with the mixture of light now, intermingling light now, called the evening, right? This is followed by a morning. So, yeah, it was all dark first. And God said, "Let there be light," which was the first day. And now that darkness was no longer just mere opaque darkness, but now it is a mixture of that light. So this is followed by a morning, that is, a breaking forth of light. Evening is placed first because there was a progress from a less to a greater brightness and order and beauty. The Jewish method of calculating the day from sunset to sunset was not the cause, but the result of this arrangement. Mm. So they counted days with sunset to sunset. Ah, sorry, I had to drink of my espresso. So, what was the first day? A creative day is not a period of 24 hours, but an eon, or a period of indefinite duration. Yeah, because eon would translate to beyond. So, there is absolutely no, like, it would be difficult for you to uh, assert a definite duration of time. So, as the Bible itself teaches us, for in Genesis 2:4, the 6 days of this narrative are described as and summed up in one day. Creation being there regarded not in its successive stages, but as a whole. So we know God is timeless, He's infinite, right? So if we attribute chronology on God's perspective when He made these things, that would make Him temporal. So by negation, we know that everything that was happening in Genesis 1, chapter 1, this all happened. Uh, all of this were at an eternal state. This had to happen all at once. There was a commentary that says that Yom, or let's say as the English translations would render it as day, this would be rendered as expanses or expanses of time. From during this eternal state of affairs, at the first point, there was already light. During that very first point, there was already light. So think about this, right? God being timeless, no series of events, no counterfactuals, no thought after thought, no thinking what to do or choosing what to do, no wandering nor pondering. These were all at eternal states. He knew this already, and this was already realized in his state of affairs. This was his eternal decision. So, knowing that, all of this had to happen in all at once. It wasn't successive. And Ellicott gets it right here that it's not in successive stages because, again, God is not dependent on sequences of events. Or let's say there is no sequences of events to God. So this had to happen as a whole. All of that, and in an eternal state of events, it had to happen all at once. So to simply attribute the first day, even the first day, as a 24-hour period, you would now apply chronology on God Himself. I'm not saying he can't. I'm not saying that He doesn't have the ability to establish the natural day, even in our for us. But this is an entirely different story. I mean, you're talking about all of. You're talking about way back, just way, way back. All right? Before we even had our systems of time. And God is timeless. He is not subjected to our systems of time. Because again, there are no sequences of events to him, nor is he dependent on a sequence of events. So, by the common consent of commentators, the seventh day, or day of God's rest, is that age in which we are now living, and which will continue until the consummation of all things. So in Zechariah 14:7, the whole gospel dispensation is called one day. Sorry. And constantly in Hebrew, as probably in all languages, day is used in a very indefinite manner. Today, or at, or this day, or to this day. Yeah, like when we say words like that. As for instance in Deuteronomy 9:1. Those, however, who adopt the very probable suggestion of Kurtz that the revelation of the manner of creation was made in a succession of representations or pictures displayed before the mental vision of the tranced seer, have no difficulties. He saw the dark gloom of evening pierced by the bright morning light. That was day one. Again, an evening cleft by the light, and he saw an opening space expanding itself around the world. That was day two. Again, darkness and light, and on the surface of the earth he saw the waters rushing down into the seas. So when light was introduced, God saw the voidness was revealed, rather. When light was introduced, the voidness was revealed. Right. So now, in that second expanse, or let's say at that expanse of time, God now began to work work on the earth. All right. That was, and he saw an opening space expanding itself around the world. That was day two. See that? That was day two. Again, darkness and light, and on the surface of the earth he saw the waters rushing down into the seas. That was day three. And so on. What else could he call these periods but days? But as St. Augustine pointed out, there was no sun then, and it is very difficult for us to imagine what sort of days these could be. Listen to this. What else could he call these periods but days? But, as St. Augustine pointed out, we didn't have the luminaries till the fourth day, so it is difficult for us to imagine what sort of days these could be, right? We know, because even right now we know days to be, oh, the sun rises up and the sun sets, and then out comes the night, sometimes the moon. But we didn't have these luminaries yet. So it's hard to imagine what kind of system of time, or it is impossible or it is impossible and fallacious to suggest that we could apply our system of time to the kinds of days that happen in the Genesis account. So Saint Augustine gets this right. It must further be observed that this knowledge of the stages of creation could only have been given by revelation, and that the agreement of the Messianic records with geology is so striking that there is no real difficulty in believing it to be inspired. The difficulties arise almost entirely from popular fallacies or the mistaken views of commentators. Yes. So here, St. Augustine was somehow avoiding a form of anachronistic fallacy where, yeah, like if the Yak were to claim that these days were actually 24-hour days, well, hey, there wasn't even the luminaries yet. Like we have our systems of times here, and then I'm sure that they're dependent on The sun rising up and the sun going down, and there goes the moon appearing out from the darkness. So these luminaries weren't there until the fourth day. So it's kind of like Saint Augustine was like did a good job in somehow dodging such an anachronistic fallacy where we apply our system of time to a eternal state of affairs on when God was working in the Genesis account. Yeah, the difficulties arise almost entirely from popular fallacies or the mistaken views of commentators, ergo the Yeks, mostly, or the likes of Ellen G. White. Geology has done noble service for religion in sweeping away the mean views of God's method of working which used formerly to prevail. We may add that among the Chaldeans, a cosmic day was a period of 43,200 years, being the equivalent of the cycle of the precession of the equinoxes. See? Those of old weren't even pro-creationist. I mean, creationism wasn't a thing until the 1940s. Then later on was just spread throughout in 1960 by some guy named Price Miller Price. I mean, even the early church fathers weren't creationist. In fact, they just exhort to us that you just embrace the natural world, dude. Just yeah, just gonna do a small trajectory here. So, hello, Andrew. Hello, One Way. It's good of you guys to join in. So, I hope you guys are strapped in and listening. So here we go. He is in the Lord of. Okay, so here we are next. Benson commentary. God distinguished them from each other by different names, as the Lord of both. The day is thine, the night is also thine. He is the Lord of time, and will be so till day and night shall come to an end. I'm sorry. I don't know, my ears are itchy. And the stream of time be swallowed up in the ocean of eternity. This says a lot. See that? This one says a lot over here. The evening, including the following night, and the morning, including the succeeding day, were the first natural day of 24 hours. Oh yeah, so Benson here is so Benson over here in contrast is Saint Augustine saying, "Hold on, we don't even have the luminaries yet, so it is difficult to describe what kind of days were there." But then here comes Benson saying, "Oh, the following night, the following morning, this is the natural day of 24 hours." Some indeed by evening understand the foregoing day as being then concluded, and by the morning the preceding night. But the Jews, who had the best opportunity of understanding Moses, who here declares the mind of God in this matter, began both their common and sacred days in the evening. The darkness of the see Leviticus 23:32. The darkness of the evening preceding the light of the morning set it off and makes it shine the brighter. So I guess Benson over here is sort of a yek. Like he favors the 24-hour view. Unlike St. Augustine, his was like, well, hold on. We don't even have the luminaries yet that make up our system of a 24-hour day. So why would you then describe those days with our system? Why would you assert that the days in Genesis are the same with the days of ours? That it constitutes the literal 24 hours. We don't even have the luminaries that is consistent with our systems of telling time. Barnes notes of the Bible, called to the light day. After separating the light of the darkness, actually, I'm going to leave this for Barnes versus Gills. So, Barnes versus Gills exposition of the Bible. So, we're going to look into this one instead. JFB, he says, a natural day, as the mention of its two parts clearly determines, and Moses reckons according to Oriental usage, from sunset to sunset, saying not day and night as we do, but evening and morning. Hmm. From sunset to sunset. Like from the beginning of dark out to the beginning of dark out. Not as we do, but evening and mornings. I guess JFB is uh, favors like an old earth view. Matthew Poole. Evening and the morning are not here to be understood according to our common usage, but are put by a synecdoche, each of them for one whole part of the natural day. But because it may be doubted which part each of them signifies, some understand by evening the foregoing day, and by the morning, well, by Ellicott, in Ellicott we say it's a mixture. Because when God said, let there be light, then he called the darkness evening. So evening is no longer this opaque darkness, but now a mixture of that intermingling first day. So so uh so like well for me I don't see any difficulty on that one now. The morning, the foregoing night, and so the natural day begins with the morning or the light, as it did with the ancient Chaldeans. Others by evening understand the first utter darkness which was upon the face of the earth, Genesis 1 2, which probably continued for the space of about 12 hours, the beginning whereof might fitly be called evening, and by morning, the succeeding lighter day, which may reasonably be supposed to continue the other 12 hours, or thereabouts, and this seems the truer opinion. Because the darkness was before the light, as the evening is put before the morning, and afterwards. Because this best agrees both with the vulgar and with the scripture use of the terms of evening and morning. Number three, because the Jews who had the best opportunity of knowing the mind of God in this matter by Moses and other succeeding prophets began both their common and sacred days with the evening, and as is confessed. So let's take a look at Leviticus 23:32. By the way, if I will allow open forum afterwards. I just need to get some reading done here. So Leviticus 23:32. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls. And the ninth day of the month at even, from even unto even, shall ye celebrate your Sabbath, towards the seventh day. Now, where the first day? So the first day, according to Barnes, did constitute or make up the first day. Day of being taken largely from the natural day, consisting of 24 hours. These were the parts of the first day, and the like is to be understood of succeeding days. Hmm. So Barnes, the young earther. Moreover, God, who could have made all things at once, was pleased to divide his work into 6 days. So he favors the successive stages. Ellicott, on the other hand, doesn't. He believes that these days were not 24 hours, but an eon. And St. Augustine also twists the knife even unto Barnes. Hold on, again, because St. Augustine says, wait, hold on. During that time, there, during that time, it was during that time there wasn't a particular arbitrary system of how we tell days. We don't even have the luminaries until the fourth day. So if we are going to imagine those days, if we're I mean, so if we're going to take our system of 24 hours to those days of those creative days, that would be difficult. It's easier to imagine than to try to hammer it down. We don't have we don't even have the luminaries until the fourth day. So how could you describe that those days of those first 3 days were, or even how do I put this? Or even the succeeding days are the like of 24 hours in our realm, right? I mean, how long or how quick was that back in the day? I mean, even to us, 24 hours is a long time. But if you're going to take our system of time to the creative times, that would be taking our system and asserting it into those creative days. It's difficult to imagine. Anyway, we're continuing. These were the parts of the first day, and the like is to be understood of the succeeding days. Moreover, God could have, yeah, we read this part, partly to give us occasion more distinctly and seriously to consider God's works, and principally to lay the foundation for the weekly Sabbath, as it clearly intimated. Right? So we'll leave Gills for now. Now let's go to the exegetical. What we had is an English exposition. But here, oh, and Ellicott might be in the expositional ilk, but he does not undermine the exegeticals. Hang on, because these are the rest. We will get to this one at a different time because I also want to get to the church fathers. Right. Pulpit commentary. And God literally called to the light of day, and literally to the darkness he called night. None but superficial thinkers, says Delitzsch, can take offense at the idea of created things receiving names from God. The name of a thing is the expression of its nature. If the name be given by man, it fixes in a word the impression which it makes upon the human mind. But when given by God, it expresses the reality, what the thing is in God's creation. See? God, when God gives creation a name, he hammers down on its essence. And the places assign it there by the sight of other things. The things named were the light and the darkness, not the durations, but the phenomena. The names called were day, yor, and night, laela. Yore, we're learning a bit of Hebrew here. So day was yore, and night, laela. I'm going to call if I have a daughter, I'll call her Layela. It's a beautiful name. Which again were not time measures, but character descriptions. See that? These were not time measures. God was simply giving them a name. They're not time measures. But God giving these two divisions of the day names, or of a natural day names. So there was no system of time yet. They're not time measures. These are character descriptions. What do you call the darkness now? Evening. What is that? It's a mixture of intermingling light from that first day. What is the light? The light is called day. So these were not time measures yet. Ainsworth suggests that yor, or yore, was intended to express the tumult, stir, and business of the day. I mean, if you think about it, yes, early in the morning, everybody's working, everybody's busy. And when you get to night, everybody starts resting. In all probability, connecting it with Yam, which depicts the foaming or the boiling of the sea, and that Layala, in which he seems to detect the Latin ululare, is indicative of the yelling or the howling of wild beasts at night. So again, character descriptions of the light and the darkness. These are not systems of time yet. So God was simply giving them description. And when it comes to God, he just doesn't hammer down on description, he hammers down on the essence of that thing. Gesenius derives the former from the unused root yore, which signifies to glow with heat. Well, the latter he associates. So yeah, Ellicott was right when he says it was a phosphorescent mass, glow with heat. While the latter he associates with lol, also unused to roll up. The idea being that the night wraps all things in obscurity. But the night isn't completely that opaque darkness anymore, but that intermingling light. When we get to the fourth day, that's the moon. That is that intermingling light now. The rest is wrapped up in the night and darkness. MacDonald sees in the naming of the creatures an expression of sovereignty and lordship, as when Adam named the beasts of the field, and the evening and the morning were the first day. Literally, and evening was and morning was day one. Considerably diversity of sentiment prevails with regard to the exact interpretation of these words. On the one hand, it assumed that the first creative period is here described as an ordinary astronomical or sidereal day of 24 hours. So some interpret it differently. Its constituent parts being characterized in the usual way as an evening and a morning. In the judgment of Kalich and others, the peculiar phrase evening was and morning was is simply equivalent to the latter Hebrew compound evening morning in Daniel 8:14. And the Greek in 2 Corinthians 11:25, both of which denote a natural or civil day, though this is challenged in the case of the Hebrew compound by MacDonald. The language of the fourth commandment, Exodus 20:11, is also appealed to as removing it beyond the sphere of doubt that the evening and the morning referred to are the component section of an earthly day. As to the proper terminus as to the proper terminus aquo of this initial day, however, the advocates of this interpretation are at variance among themselves. Delitzsch taking the terms Arab, literally the setting from Arab, to mix, to set, to depart like the sun, and Boker, literally the breaking forth from bakar, to cleave, to open, in an active sense, and applying the former to the first fading of the light, and the latter to the breaking of the dawn after the first interval of darkness has passed, thus reckoning the creative days from daybreak to daybreak, while Murphy and Kalish, who agree with him in regarding the days as ordinary solar days, declare they must be reckoned Hebraico more from sunset to sunset. But if the first day commenced with an evening or obscure period, has Ereb no connection with Arab to mix, may it not describe the condition of things when light and darkness was commingled? That can be discovered only in the chaotic darkness out of which the light sprang. Hence, on the other hand, as it seems improbable that this was of no more than 12 hours duration, and as the presumption is that the light period would be commensurate in length, it has been argued that day one was not a sun measured day, but a period of indefinite extent. See? Just like what St. Augustine says. Hold on. How are you able to insert how are you able to insert a definite parameter of time when we don't even have, or nor does it, or nor in that very verse were these time measurements, but literally just God giving description to what the light and the darkness would constitute. We don't even have the luminaries yet. I'm quoting this again. We don't even have the luminaries yet by the fourth day. And now you're going to use our system of time to what? Suggest that those creative days were like that of ours? Yeah, there goes my old earth leading. Of course, the length of day, one practically determines the length of all the six. If it was a solar day, then they must be considered such. But as the present sidereal arrangements for the measurement of time were not when established, it is clearly gratuitous to proceed on the assumption that it was, hence, neither is it to be accepted without demonstration that they were not likewise periods of prolonged duration. So nobody exactly knows how long that was. It is obvious they were if it was, and that it was appears to be suggested by the terms in which it is described, this conclusion that the creation days were long periods and not simply solar days is confirmed by a variety of considerations. So, one, in the creation record itself, Genesis 2:4, the term is employed with an obvious latitude of meaning, standing for light as opposed to darkness. Verse 5, day as distinguished from night, and for a period of 24 hours, as in the phrase 4 days and years. Verse 14. Yeah, we get to that by verse 14, right? And again, for the whole creation period of 6 days, or as it is more probable, for the second and third days. General scripture usage sanctions that interpretation of the word day as a period of indefinite duration. Zechariah 14:6-7, which speaks of the time of our Lord is coming, and indeed of the entire gospel dispensation, as unos dies, a day together unique, the only day of its kind, and characterized it as one of God's days, known to the Lord, as if to distinguish it from one of man's ordinary civil days. So even by that, we say a day to us is not the same as a day to God. So these creation days were long periods, not solar days. See? This is what this is what you will get if you don't take the reading at its surface. If you read exegeticals enough and you actually consider the old languages, you'd never devolve into a translation only as type of jig. Anyway, oh, where was I? Where was I? Read from here. Okay. Number 3. The word ascribed to the different days can with difficulty be compressed within the limits of a solar day. Taking the third day, if the events assigned to it belong exclusively to the region of the supernatural, nothing need prevent that belief that 24 hours were sufficient for their accomplishment. But if the divine modus operandi, I love this one, modus operandi, during the first half of the creative week was through existing causes, even vastly accelerated. As geology affirms that it was during the second half, and as we know that it has been ever since its termination, then a considerably larger space of time than twice 12 hours must have been consumed in their execution. The same conclusion forces itself upon the judgment from a consideration of the works allotted to the sixth day, in which not only were the animals produced and Adam made, but the former, being collected and eaten, were passed in review before the latter to be named, after which he was cast into a sleep by Jehovah Elohim, a rib extracted from his side and fashioned into a woman, and the woman presented to him as a partner. Number 4, the duration of the seventh day of necessity determines the length of the other six, without anticipating the exposition of Genesis 2, verses 1 to 4. It may be said that God's sabbatic rest is understood by the best interpreters of Scripture to have continued from creation's close until the present hour. so that consistency demands the previous 6 days to be considered as not of short but of indefinite duration. Mhm. Number five, the language of the fourth commandment, when interpreted in accordance with the present theory, confirms the probability of its truth. If the 6 days in Exodus 20:11 are simply natural days, then the seventh day in which God is represented as having rested from his creative labors must likewise be a natural or solar day. And if so, it is proper to observe what follows. It follows that one, that the events recorded in the first 5 verses of Genesis must be compressed into a single day of 24 hours so that no gap will remain into which the short day advocates may thrust the geologic ages, which is for them an imperative necessity. Number two, the world is only 144 hours older than man, which is contrary to both science and revelation. Three, that the statement is incorrect that God finished all his works at the close of the sixth day. And number four, that the fossiliferous remains which have been discovered in the Earth's crust have either been deposited there since man's creation or were created there at the first, both of which suppositions are untenable. But now, if, on the contrary, the language signifies that God labored in the fashioning of his cosmos through 6 successive periods of indefinite duration and entered on the seventh day into a correspondingly long period of sabbatic rest, we can hold the opposite of every one of these conclusions and find a convincing argument besides for the observance of the Sabbath day and the beautiful analogy which subsists between God's great work, a great week of Olamim, and man's little week of sun measured days. Number six, wow, that's a lot of considerations. Geology declares that the Earth must have been brought to its present condition through a series of labors extending over indefinitely long epochs. And notwithstanding the confident assertion of Kalich and others that it is hopeless to harmonize science and revelation, the correspondence between the contents of these geologic ages and those of the Messiah days is so surprising as to induce the belief that the latter were, like the former, extended periods. First, according to the geology, traveling backward comes the Cainozonic era, with the remains of animals, but that of man. Next is the Mesozoic era, with the remains of fish and fowl, but that of animals. And underneath that is the Paleozoic era, with its formations, but still with traces of aquatic life at its beginning and its end. Now, whether the vegetation of third day is to be sought for in the Carboniferous formation of the Paleozoic age, or Hugh Miller, or as it is more probable in the age which saw the formation of the metamorphic rocks, Dawson, the order disclosed is precisely that which the Mosaic narratives affirms was the testimony of the rocks be admissible at all upon the subject. It is unmistakably in favor of the long period day. There's more. We're almost there. Ah, I'm going to stretch a little bit. Sorry for that. Sorry for those grunting noises. I'm going to take a look at the side chat. Hello, Jill. Good of you to be here. I hope you are strapped in here. So, anybody wants to come in? We're almost done. I think I'll just save the Church Fathers for another stream. So, yeah, we're almost past the first hour, so should be able to get some discussion going on here in light of the commentaries we read. The opinion of neither Jewish nor Christian antiquity was entirely on the side of the natural day theory. Ooh, look at this. Remember when I said that these folks were not pro young earth creationists? As the young earth creationists would use a natural day theory on the creative accounts. Right. So the opinion of neither Jewish nor Christian antiquity was entirely on the side of the natural day theory. This is where we get to the Church Fathers. We will emphasize the seventh point of pulpit commentary by looking into the Josephus and Philo lent their sanction to the other view. Origen perceived the difficulty of having a first, second, and third day, each with an evening and a morning, without the sun, moon, and stars. and resolved it by saying that the celestial luminaries were appointed. Again, St. Augustine. Augustine similarly writes, Quides, cujus modi sint an perfi an perdi crap, I can't read per di, per difficile per and per difficile nobis an etiam impossible es cogitare quanto magis dicere illorum autem priores tres sine sole peracte sunt qui quarto de factus refertur. The fourth day, the fourth day, qui quarto day factus refertur. Bode likewise remarks, Fortasis hic diet nomen crap. Fortasis hic diet nomen totios tempores nomen est, et omnia volumina seculorum hoc vocabulo includit. Speaking of which, hello Andrew, good to see you, my dude. I hope this glitch doesn't happen again.
No, it's not a glitch. I'm making sure I got YouTube closed off so you're not echoing.
Yep, and I hear you loud and clear, which is good.
Good.
Anybody a Latin expert here? This one, I'm sure. The fourth day refutes which one? Hang on. Qui dies cujus modis sint? Qui dies cujus modis sint an per difficile nobis? An etiam impossible es cogitare. Quanto magis dicere illorum autem priores tres sine sole peractis sunt, qui quarto de factos refortur. Meaning, if you don't have the luminaries of the fourth day, why would you then use our earthly system of time why would you then insinuate that our system of time is equivocal to the creative days? Sounds like that, but I'm not a Latin expert, so
Nor am
anyone
I.
yeah. So anybody who could read this or tell me what this really is in the comments to redeem me from my spurg, please do. Bode likewise remarks, Fortasis hic diet nomen totios tempores nomen est, et omnia volumina seculorum hoc vocabulo included. Wow.
Okay.
Latin is a beautiful language. I gotta learn some Latin.
Well,
Number 8.
I got vocabulary and included.
Oh, Dr. Kenny's here. Hello. My favorite Christian apologist. Hey, do you know a bit of Latin here? I think you could help us here. By the way, Dr. Kenny, links in the side chat if you want to chime in. We could use an extra pair of hands for discussion. I mean, if I'm not good with reading Latin, well, at least my pronunciation on the Latin would at least my pronunciation in the Latin would be at least beautiful.
Well,
But the
I'm
one thing I
understanding.
the one thing I do understand is qui quarto die factus reforter. The fact of the fourth day refutes, but then how would I be able to connect that if I don't even know what the latter even says? But again, this is what. Hang on. If we go back to Ellicott, I think this is what Saint Augustine is pretty much saying. No, what do you mean? I think. Of course, this is what he's saying. So the first day, Saint Augustine. Where's Saint Augustine? All right, here. But as Saint Augustine pointed out, there was no sun then. And it is very difficult for us to imagine what sort of days these could be. See? St. Augustine here is applying the don't shoot principle very well. And the first to the third day before the luminaries, there was no sun, moon, nor star. So how could you suggest that even those succeeding days, even those previous days, and the succeeding days therewith are regular solar days, right? Read the English. Oh yeah, that's what I did. I read the English instead. Yeah, I'm gonna go read the English instead. But you know what? It's the same thing. We don't have the luminaries until the fourth day. We don't even have the sun, so how could you suggest that the days thereof and the days afterwards succeeding to it are literal solar days? Hang on. So yeah. So even by the early church fathers and early Christian history would tell you that they were not pro young earth. Heck, they weren't even pro creationism. I just told them to go ahead. I'm still not hungry. I had lots of food last night. Anyways, so yeah. Kenny, Dr. Kenny, you can come in. Links in the description. I think I'll put a star. Hang on, I'll put it down here again so you can come in. I can't believe it didn't have that pinned. All right. How was my favorite Christian apologist? 47.5% verified handsome too. So, all right. So anyway, number 8. Heathen cosmogonies may also be appealed to as an indirect confirmation of the preceding evidence. Egyptian, Persian, Indian, and Etruscan legends represent the elaboration of the world as having been accomplished in a series of ages of prolonged duration. God created in the first 1,000 years heaven and earth, and the second the vault of heaven, and the third the sea and the other waters of the earth, and the fourth the sun, moon, and stars. There we have the luminaries. This is Saint Augustine's point. You don't have these luminaries, so why would you suggest that your system of time is equivocal to the creative times, the creative days? So this is a problem even for young earthers. And the fifth, the inhabitants of the air, of the water, and the land, and the sixth, the man, is the creation story of Erturia. And although in itself it has no validity, yet as a traditional reflection of the Mosaic narrative, it is not entirely destitute of weight. See? We'll get to biblical illustrators in another stream. And but after that, I want to twist the knife. So instead of going with Gills and Barnes for English exposition, let's twist the knife further with church fathers. And then we'll go to the theological morals, which is contained in Biblical Illustrator. So I guess that'll be it for the presentation for now. So right now it's open forum. Anybody want to come in the stream? Do so. Everybody now is up for a discussion. We can share our thoughts based on the commentary and the source we read. And yes, God bless this stream. Okay, so yeah, I used to think that these days were literal 24 hours, but then if I were to do that, I would somehow make an I mean, I would both I mean by not following the don't shoot principle, I would then apply an anachronistic fallacy into the text in the Genesis account. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else has stopped watching. Kenny is also out. I think he's entering. I mean, we're down to 0 views. I don't know. Maybe YouTube is at it again.
Well, there were 3 when I was watching.
Yeah, there were 3. I don't know if YouTube is doing that, but yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. So yeah, after reading the sources, I mean, I have taken both expositions and exegeticals. I didn't like I didn't like sort out the EX sources alone, or those of which that favor the natural day theory. I take it both, and based on the sources, Ellicott and the exegeticals have have better there's a I mean have better what you call this. I mean it tends to lean on the fact that these Genesis the days of Genesis was a really long time ago. It was a really long time ago. Like I wouldn't be convinced otherwise by another exposition. And they dodged, and then you know what? They weren't fallacious either. And then to me, Saint Augustine hammers it home. You don't even have the sun or the luminaries, so why would you then associate? Why would you then equivocate the days of Genesis to either solar or lunar times? That is a big leap, very big leap. You would have to go to the ends of all to even assert that to begin with. Anyhow, what do you have to
Hmm.
say for that? Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah, they seem to have their own set of struggles, don't they?
they do?
Especially with and they're not trying to hide it, and they're
Hmm.
also not trying to guess,
Yes. I'm not
which
trying to
is
guess it at all.
yeah. They're not trying to say, oh, we know it's a definite time period of 6,000 years or 10,000 years or 20,000 years or millions of years. We just don't know.
We don't. Yes. So when we look at the Genesis account, we have to be careful. We have to be careful whether we have to be careful that first, I mean, two things. We have to be careful of two things. One, we focus in that area, and two, we make sure that we don't reach far too deep in it. If we do, we're going to get lost. That I know for
Oh,
sure.
definitely.
Yes. And but you know what? The the pulpit commentary also hits home because these were in time. I mean, when God called day morning and God called the darkness evening, these weren't time measurements yet. These were descriptions of what it should look like. God hammering down description even to their essence, what the morning is and what the dark and what the evening is. So it's not even so this doesn't even mention a certain time measurement, but it's merely a description of the dividing lights, which somehow paved the way for our system of time. Because I would say time is relative. What may be a time here is not the same with Jupiter. Well, I don't know. Not, it's not relative. I'm sorry. Forget what I said. I'm just going to go with this one.
Oh,
Previously,
it's the same. None of the planets actually share a day of the same period.
they do. Even I mean, even cultures would attest to this. Like the system of day that we have and the system of days that the Jews had compared to the Chaldeans, the Indians, they aren't the same. In fact, how long would they constitute a cosmological day? I mean, the Chaldeans constitute a cosmological day of 43,200 days. Now, I don't know what it would be like for the other tribes. I mean, some count their time on either solar days, lunar days, when sunset falls, or sunrise breaks, or when night rolls up the curtains. You know.
Hmm.
Hmm?
Well, I mean, I do know that a day on Venus it takes about a year for it to orbit the sun, an Earth year. I do know that.
Yes. Even yeah.
Um,
You know what? Go on. I'm sorry. Go on.
and all of the planets actually orbit in their own way.
Exactly.
So Mars is not the closest planet to Earth because of this orbiting.
Mm-hmm. That's
Because
true.
Mars actually spends more time away from the Earth than it does anywhere near it.
That's true.
And I forget the exact planet which it is that spends more time genuinely closer to Earth's orbiting. But they all orbit on their own, and they all orbit on different orbits.
Yeah.
And
I
and
mean,
and I do know that without having Jupiter and Saturn where they are, they actually are protecting the Earth from some of the worst meteor strikes that happen, and we just don't get them. We get the near misses, but that's it.
yeah, we just get the near misses. That's true. I mean, Jupiter can attest to that. And Jupiter is a big planet, and knowing that it's big, it probably moves slower than the other planets.
And it's
Or I don't
gas.
know.
And it's
Yeah, it's
gas.
gas. Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
can't live on it.
Yes. It's a
None of the
gaseous
other
planet of
planets have.
thunderstorms too.
Yeah, but none of the
Mm.
other planets actually are inhabitable because we can't even get there.
That's true.
Even if we could get there, we it wouldn't be like Matt Damon in The Martian.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't just land a team on there, put them on there, and let them grow their own potatoes on there. It just wouldn't work. And
God divided the world.
that's what Hugh Ross was explaining to his sons. So if you're going to a movie about space, don't take Hugh Ross with you. He will tell you why it doesn't work. Although that might be handy. I mean I must admit the Martians plot was very thin beyond we're sending the humans to Mars and they're gonna live on there for a little while and then we'll send them back. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's let's just take it to completely rob the session.
Yeah. I mean, even time is influenced by the gravitational pull of other planets and the closeness to the sun. I mean, I think even the sun has the, I mean, of all the planets, the sun has the greatest gravitational pull.
It does, and it's fading too, apparently.
Yeah,
Uh, but that's a different area.
yeah, it will turn into a supernova, and then the next thing you know, it just sucks everything in.
Some stupid thing like that. Yeah, it's doesn't make any sense to me.
Hmm.
Why would God even want to do that in the first place? Because if
Exactly.
God had wanted the other planets to be inhabited, surely He would have inhabited them Himself and put people on there who could survive there, or put beings on
All,
there who could survive there.
all I know is that God divided the waters from the waters on other planets differently. Now, when it comes to Earth, He divided the waters from the waters in a sense that it would be conducive for us to live in and allow human activity.
Mm-hmm.
This is why when we see smog, it just dissipates through the air. It doesn't stay in one place. So even by that, when you say divide the waters from the waters, you got to think water is a compound consisting of oxygen and hydrogen ions.
Mm-hmm.
This is how it also explains how rain and snow are possible. Well, not in a really scientifically quantifiable description, but it has led even to theologians to say that the sky is a great treasury of water, which is the lighter water, and you have the
Mm-hmm.
thicker water here, which is the more heavy mass of it, which is the more
Mm-hmm.
liquidated form. And water, of course, we know that it is a it also contains oxygen ions,
Mm-hmm.
but the oxygen ions distributed in the liquidated mass of water is far more different than the oxygen ions that, well, basically the one we're breathing in. And it's really funny, right? The higher your altitude, the harder it is for you to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
So on that altitude, there is this pressurized commingling ion of oxygen, or as some commentary would say, this commingling mass of air and vapor from waters. So you could see that when God said dividing the waters from the waters, this is his way also of making sure that pressure is dispersed evenly to the point where it allows us to inhale and exhale normally, functionally. It's not too unpressurized and it's not too pressurized at the same time. So I can't imagine a world where I can't imagine a world where God exists, but everything is off by a fraction of 0.000000001 or to the highest decimal possible.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be consistent and perfect. So even this has led my faith to be strong that there is indeed a God out there. And I believe in the Christian God. I'm not a general theist, I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I've never spent much time on the thinking process of it. I've just accepted Genesis 1 and 2 as 1 and 2,
Yeah, well.
and I've never had the need to have to argue anything better.
Well, it didn't say. Well, the Bible doesn't say argue for Jesus and you'll be saved. It
No,
doesn't say
no,
that.
no, no.
Yeah.
No. Likewise, it doesn't say in the beginning there was nothing.
Mm. In the beginning, it said God created.
Yeah, yeah.
So when this
Create,
account was already made, there were things already established.
yeah. Created as in past
Mm.
tense. It's all been done.
This is how God has made things possible, not just to apprehend the things that are tangible to us, but to also apprehend them as well.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
maybe that's a strength that Christians have, in that we don't
Yes.
really need to know this information.
Yeah, I mean, I
It's a,
wouldn't say it's axiomatic, but God gives his reasons. It's almost
yeah.
to the point where the Bible is up to no debate. I mean, the only debate we'll have concerning scripture is either faulty hermeneutics or different interpretations, but not
Hmm.
the Bible itself. It's
Yeah.
pretty amazing, don't you think? I mean, this is how we know that the essence of God is not affected by our experiences or by experience.
Hmm. And
Hmm.
I certainly don't buy evolution.
Well, whether it be true tomorrow or later on, it's not gonna have any effect on my salvation. I mean, who gives a crap anyway? I mean, for all I know, I could emerge materialistically. I probably could emerge from a espresso cup, but what does it matter anyway?
Well, you need the espresso cup first, and that was invented by man.
That's true.
but
I mean, you need
but
also the molecules first, and that was established by pre-existing molecules. So it
yeah.
all goes back to a working force which drives nature.
Hmm. And
Yeah.
God has those molecules. He also has the ability to shape those molecules.
Yeah. I mean, Genesis chapter 6.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but I mean, if God does it, it definitely cannot be chance.
Yes. And you know what? Even if the world came out by chance, you'd still have to wonder. You'd still have to, even if you do um, argue that the world is by chance, you'd still have to wonder what What external stimulus or sequence of events has led to such a chance? Because chance is contingent. It has to depend on something for it to happen.
Yeah,
It needs a variable for it to bear weight or to stand upon.
yeah.
Even
Otherwise,
randomness needs even randomness, the randomness of things needs something to define itself for us to call for us to even say, oh, that was random.
yeah.
Yes.
Otherwise, it just doesn't. Well, it can't stand.
Hmm. Chance and randomness are just contingent, are just words that we say out of the things we observe. We don't know how these things, how we until now we don't know how these things really react, but they do depend on a tangible source to be able to define itself. It needs a sequence of events for it to even say, oh, that was random, oh, that was chance.
Mm.
It can be disorganized, disconstructed, or malformed, but it needs those.
Or deconstructed.
Yes.
But even when they try and deconstruct it, if you try and deconstruct an animal, you're not going to find God.
Yeah, you won't find God by deconstructing an atom.
And you won't find him by deconstructing a man and a human being and saying his soul.
Hmm. Even morality itself is dependent on a source. Like Pentecostal funditards will take a look at Deuteronomy and say that's subjective morality, but no, that is a demonstration of objective morality. So for us to
Hmm.
know how that came to be, we have to go to the source of objective morality.
And even atheists will say that society chooses morality.
Yeah, I mean, if I make an objectively moral statement, you can't say that my statement alone is indeed is you can't equate it as objective morality itself. Thereby, you have to ask the one who made that so-called objective moral statement, and
Mm,
that is why you have people interviewing. Why do you think that is objectively moral? It always goes
yeah,
back to a source.
yeah. Well, I
Hmm.
mean, if they're going to go into this population control crap, they're going to have to go into murder.
Oh yeah,
There's no two
definitely.
ways about it.
Yeah, if you want to you want to control the population, kill it, kill us, end us.
Yep.
Mm.
And and that's dangerous in and of itself because it's immoral to kill someone. Apparently,
That is a tyrant's. That is a tyrant's way of dealing with crowd control or damage control.
yep.
Hmm.
And
Like,
that's
who are
just
you,
one of the
Thanos?
struggles.
I mean, who are you, Thanos? Hey, Shannon, it's good to see you. I was just about to end the stream now, uh, but anyway, final words.
Ah, right. They called Shannon in for work. That's cool.
Yeah, I gotta head to the I gotta prepare for
Yeah, you're
my
right.
trip to the gym. Yeah, I gotta prepare my trip to the gym. So final words, Andrew.
Final words.
All right, and I think I'll chime in Dave's stream. I think I'll see you there. So
Roger.
all right,
Ciao.
God bless you. Ciao. All right then. Beautiful. Okay, so thank you for everyone who chimed in here today. I am glad that you come here and appreciate my videos. God bless the stream. I will be streaming again. Don't take your salvation for granted. And I will see you guys in the next stream. I'll be signing off in three, two, one.